Hey guys, we're moving into a new section of Genesis chapter 1, looking at verses 9 through 25. Now, what's been so cool as I've gone through this study is I started to notice some details, and one of them is I see phases of creation, where we're now moving into a new phase. The phases were phase 1, we see God make and organize the stuff, which will include the land and the sea in verses 9 through 10, where he's making space for life. Phase 2, we see God filling that space, land, air, and sea, with the life that he made. Now, in phase 2, what I see 5 never before seen attributes, which will be essential to human beings. He's making them in this phase of creation. And we're also seeing the why of the previous phases. Why did God make phase 1? We're going to see why did God make phase 2. And this is our main question of our study, right? Why did God make something instead of nothing? Why did he make us? And then in phase 3, we see the pinnacle of his creation, what the previous phases were made for, and that is for humans. So let's look at verses 9 through 10. We see first here that God finished his preparation phase, his phase 1 of creation, and he finishes it by separating the land and the sea. Now, this finalization of the organization of space and time and matter is to make this new creation, specifically the earth, suitable for life. And this helps us understand the answer to our question of why in phase 1. Why did God make phase 1? Well, he made space and matter and time as a suitable place for life to exist and live. I love how God provides a suitable and desirable place, right? And he does it with space and boundaries and separations and distinctions and purpose. Now imagine living in a place that's not suitable for life. I just think of the Arizona desert, just hot and dry. We shouldn't be living there. Right? God doesn't want that. He wants a place that is suitable for life, a place for life to thrive. The universe is being prepared for the arrival of the pinnacle of God's creation. And we'll see that in phase 3. And I think this leads us to a point. And the point is this, is that God goes before us to prepare. And he prepares for us in 2 ways. The first, God goes before us to prepare a place. You see, we look throughout Scripture, we see that the promised land was prepared to receive the Israelites. Had 400 years before they went there. It was a place flowing with milk and honey. God was preparing that place for them. We see Jesus talking about preparing a place for us in heaven in his Father's house in John 14. You see, God has already gone before us and prepared a place for us on earth and in heaven. And the second point, the second way that God goes before us to prepare is that he goes before us to prepare us for the place he has prepared for us. You see, God it gives us what we need to fulfill his will wherever he calls us. Human beings were designed for life on this new earth. They were prepared to live on this life. Israel was purified in the wilderness. They were prepared to move into this promised land flowing with all of these blessings. We even see that the spiritual climate of the ancient Near East was perfect for the Messiah, that the people were ready to receive him. Now, preparation, being prepared, it doesn't mean that we are perfect. It doesn't mean we have all the skills and experience and wisdom we need. But what it means is that we are prepared in dependence and trust in God. You see, the human beings, they had to learn how to live on this earth, but they were meant for God. They were meant to be in relationship with him. They had to learn how to do that. We see Israel, they had to learn how to be faithful. They had everything. They had seen all the things that God has done. And so they were ready to walk into this place of blessing and lean on God. And we also see that the people during the time of Jesus were ready. They had to believe. They weren't perfect, but they had what they needed to fulfill the timing that God had for them. And so when God calls us, we don't need to fear. Everyone has been prepared by God for what he calls. Now, this continues into phase 2, as we'll see, that God is now creating essential parts or attributes in preparation for stage 3 or for phase 3. So we're going to quickly go through phase 2, looking at these 5 never before seen attributes. And then what we'll see next week is we'll see how they all come together for phase 3. So first we see in verse 11, this start of this new phase of creation where God now is creating complex life. He calls forth vegetation and he creates 2 new attributes in creation that weren't there before. We see reproduction and we see relationship. So our first never before seen attribute is reproduction. We see plant life now contains the genetic material that allows it to reproduce and create more of itself. So far, nothing else in creation has the ability to do that. And kind of fun fact, we talk about God's organization in phase one. Well, here we see God organizing the micro world, right? Where the plants now have this organized genetic material that produces more of themselves, right? We see order producing order. I love that. And then the second never before seen attribute is relationship. We see plant life. It's the first of creation to be dependent on other parts of creation, on land, water, air, and light, in order to fulfill its purpose. We have these ecosystems now being the start of relationships, which is within the natural world. All right, move on to verses 12 through 19. We see the creation of the sun, the moon, and the stars, where God's previous decree, distinguishing night and day, separating them, is now being expressed in the visible creation. And so what we have is this third never before seen attribute, rulership. The great lights are given dominion over the day and the night. And we'll dive into that again a lot more in phase 3. And now verses 20 through 25, we see now God creating the animals to fill the space he created, the sky, the sea, and the land. And we have our last two of our never before seen attributes. We see number one, revelation, right? In verse 22, God gives verbal command to the creatures to be fruitful and to multiply. And then with that, we see our fifth never before seen attribute, recognition. We see the development or the creation, of this cognitive awareness, this rationale, this new ability to receive this revelation. For why would God give it if they can't receive it, right? And so what we see in phase 2 is this preparation for phase 3. And it seems a little more complicated or unclear than the preparation in phase 1. But that's okay. You see, because we can't always see how what God is doing now will be used later. His work in our lives specifically can often go unnoticed or misunderstood. When I was working in corporate finance, I couldn't see how my corporate work was going to benefit me later in ministry. I do now, looking back. But you may not be unaware of how God is preparing you. You may not know what this preparation time will be used for later, or you may even think that, God's done with you. But we're still imperfect, right? People still need discipleship, and we can't see what tomorrow may bring. So we can have confidence that God is working in us, that God is preparing us today for what he has prepared for us tomorrow, that God is giving us wisdom needed for tomorrow's challenges. You don't know what tomorrow's challenges, you don't know what challenges today will be tomorrow's wisdom. So let me give you one point of application, but 2 ways to do it. And the point of application is this: embrace today, right? Embrace today. Do it in 2 ways. Number 1, learn from everything. New experiences, new responsibilities, new roles, new challenges, etc. Be aware of what lessons, knowledge, or wisdom you can learn from where you're at right now, because you don't know how God's going to use that tomorrow. And then number 2, embrace challenges. You see, the default is to run away from them or even pray them away. Struggles and suffering can grow and teach us, strengthening us for tomorrow's challenges and give us wisdom that God can use in our lives and help others later. So let me encourage you, learn from everything and embrace challenges.